This is going to be a quick tutorial about the basics of Illustrator and some of the tools you might use in future. And to do that, we're going to create a keyring today. So we're going to start with creating a new file in Illustrator. We'll just pick print. It doesn't really matter too much the file size. It's just going to matter with what we're creating on that file and the size. So here we just want to make sure we're changing it from points to centimeters or millimeters if you prefer. Create that. Once we've opened our file, we have some basic tools. Here on the left you should have a panel. If not, we just want to go into our window and make sure that we have controls selected. I like to place mine, click and drag them onto the left, and they clip in there nicely. Also, if we are doing any additional work, then we need to have a color palette, or maybe we need to look at shapes or details or things like that, and they're not here, then just go into window and find the corresponding names. So we have pattern options, layers, etc. And if they pop up here on the side, then you can just click and drag them and bring them here onto the side just to manage them easily, like this. Once we have that, what we want to do is zoom in a bit more. So if you're using a trackpad, you can just pinch out and in like on your phone to zoom in and out. You can also hold Command or Control and add plus and minus to zoom out. The first thing we're going to start with is creating a basic shape of our keyring. So here on the left I have clicked the ellipse tool. If you click and hold down, you see some other options here. You can do around a rectangle or an ellipse. I'll start with that one because that's the shape I want to create. And then if I click and drag, I can drag out a shape. Once I've dragged out that shape, I actually want to make sure this is a very particular size. So I'm going to go over here to properties. Again, if the window's missing, just come down here to properties and click on it. We can see here we have the width and the height. So I want to select the width and I want to make sure that it is 6 centimeters. So let's type in 6 and press enter, and it's adjusted the size. And I want the height to be under 3 centimeters. So press 3 and enter. So now we have our correct size. What I want to do now is to add at the front here a little sort of loop for our keyring. So I'm going to use the ellipse tool again. So I can either click on it here or I can click M and our ellipse tool will come up. And what's happened here is the shape square has come up. That's not the one I wanted. It's made a mistake, or it selected automatically the shape tool to be a rectangle. So I'm going to click on my keyboard Command Z or Control Z, and it removes that shape. If I want to undo my undo, then I can press Command Shift Z and it brings it back. But because I don't want it, Command Z and get rid of it. I'm going to go to the shape tool, hold it down and reselect the ellipse tool. I'm going to click and drag, and I want to make this ellipse a perfect sort of circle. So I'm going to hold down Shift and you can see it adjusts the size there how I want it. We can do the same thing and adjust here the size to what I want, but I'm going to delete that shape because it was still selected. I'm going to instead, with the shape tool selected, click, and this option is going to come up. So what I can do is type in that I want my width to be let's just say 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Press OK, and it creates the shape in that size. Now to move this shape where I want it, I still have the shape tool selected, so I need to click on the select tool. So that is V on your keyboard, or it's this arrow here, the solid black arrow, or V on your keyboard. We can click on it and we can move this shape around. Illustrator is good because it locks in. We can see some lines have come up and we can see that center line is intersecting as well as the end of that shape, and that's where we want it to be. We can also change these shapes so that they're completely see-through so we can see what's going on. On the left here we have our solid fill and our line on the outside, so I can select either of those depending which one I want to work on. I've selected my fill and I'm going to go down here to none. We can see this red line across and it makes it see-through. So we have these two separate shapes and we want to combine them to make them into one shape. So with that direct selection tool, with the selection tool selected, I'm going to click and drag and select both of those shapes. Then we are going to go to a toolbar called Pathfinder. If you don't have this, remember you can go to Window at the top and select it. We click Pathfinder. We want to unite these two shapes together. So I'm going to click on that one. Just go back so you can see what happens. When I click on it, they join together like this. When I click away, they're one shape now. So when it goes through the laser cutter, it's not going to cut through those two shapes that were there. So now I want to make sure there is a hole right in the center here so it cuts for my shape. So I'm going to go back to that shape tool, have the ellipse. I'm going to just click on the screen. It brings up the last shape I created, and I can make that automatically, but it'll be the same size. I want the width here to be a little bit more than halfway because we want it to be strong. So I'm going to make this locked so it changes on both sides. And I'm going to make this into 0.4 centimeters. We can see it automatically change the bottom one. I'm going to press OK. Now we need the selection tool. Do you remember the shortcut? The shortcut on your keyboard for the selection tool is V. I'm going to click and drag. Just got to wait, because if I clicked on this shape now, I would just get the rotation. So what I want to do is I can zoom in if my shape is a bit too small. So remember Control+ to zoom in, like that. And I have to wait until I get this little arrow with the little move box on it, and then I can easily move it around. You can use your trackpad to move around, like this. Or if you're using your mouse, you can click space and hold space and just click your mouse and move it around. Make sure I click on this shape, make sure it's centered. We get that intersect line again. Just make sure it's centered. And there we go. Make sure it has no fill. So this is the base sort of our keychain, our keyring. And we want to make sure that it is locked together. So it is one grouping. So with the selection tool, we click and drag and select all of it. And if you go to right click, we can group. If you're not sure how to do right click trackpad, just hold down Control and click. And you can get those settings. Okay, and now we're going to go to the layers panel. Again, if you don't have the layers panel, we just want to go to Window and open up a new one. And if we go down, there is a little plus here. We're going to create a new layer. That first layer that we created, we want to lock. You can also change the name of this layer. So we'll double click on that. We'll change this to base. And so we know what we're working on. We want to select that top layer. And now we're going to create our design on top here. So I am going to create my name here. We can press T on the keyboard for text to be able to write some font, or here on the side toolbar you can see the T to be able to write. So I'm just going to click somewhere. Comes up with an example of what the font's going to be, and I'm just going to start off with writing my name. Just normally like this. I want to change this font. So I'm just going to click and drag to select it again. We can see up here at the top, we can go through and select some different fonts. There is also a type tool here for the character. If you're missing it anywhere, remember, go to the window and just look up the type tool. So let me see if I can choose something I'm happy with. I might choose this design and this character font. Okay, so now I've chosen the selection tool again, just to click away from it. and I can see the size of this here. I want to have this a bit bigger so it's easy to see my name. If I want to resize it, we can double click and highlight the words, and we can go here and size it up again. Or if I'm using the selection tool, click away, I can select it and then also enlarge. Just be mindful if you're moving and resizing your name that you hold down Shift. This means that it won't do what it's doing right now. It'll keep its size relative to each other. Okay. Whoops, I accidentally let go, so I press Command Z to fix my mistake. I'm going to try that again. Click the outside, resize, hold Shift, and it keeps its proportions. Once I'm happy with that, I unclick and then let go of Shift. So we can click and move this around. So if we want to have this on the laser cutter and we want to cut this out, we need to have an outline. Right now it's a solid text. We want to change it into shapes so we can have outlines and fill. So with it selected, with the selection tool, I'm going to go to Object, Expand, and then we want to have Object and Fill selected, and we're going to expand that. So now we can see that all of these are made into individual shapes. If we go here to the Direct Selection tool, this gives you a bit more options with your shapes, as you can see in the example video here. So this one is just here with the little white arrow, or you can select A on your keyboard and it comes up. We want to zoom in so we can see what we're doing. Remember, if we want to move around our screen and we have a mouse, we can click and hold space and click and drag around. So if we cut this out with the laser cutter, my little bit here in the middle of my A is going to disappear. The cool thing about this design of this font is I have these like white intersecting lines, which is the area that's not going to be cut. It is going to stay attached to my keyring. So I am going to add that shape here. So I'm just going to zoom in. I am going to use the pen tool. So click and select. It's also P on your keyboard. And I'm going to start a little further away just so I don't lock too much in with this shape. Click, click, click and drag and connect those together, and I have a solid shape now. I'm going to select A for my direct selection tool. That means I can click any of these little corners and move them around. So I'm going to move them so they line up with the edge of that letter. It might be a bit tricky. If you need to zoom in a bit, that might be a good idea, just so you can see a bit better. And align my shapes. I can even bring it right up to the corner there so they match up, if that works better. And just making sure that it roughly looks like it's the same width here. Might give it a little bit more width at the top. Wonderful. So now what I want to do is cut out what I've drawn here from our original A shape. So I am going to make sure that both of these shapes are selected, so the big A, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and select this other shape. We can see they're both selected. Just close my layers panel. We're going to go back into Pathfinder and we are going to select this one here. We're going to divide those shapes. So I'm going to click on that and we're going to use our direct selection tool. So I click and click away. If I select that, we can see it's cut into these shapes and they've separated them. So I'm just going to press delete on my keyboard. We can see it's deleted that shape. I'll delete this one here. Select here and delete. I'm a bit unhappy just with this kind of shape that's been created here. I'd much rather this be a straight line. So I can, with A, the direct selection tool, I can click on this and move it around a bit. Or if I don't even want a joint there or a point there, I can just click minus. We get that pen tool and we can minus that little point and minus this little point here, and it straightens out that line. If I go to the direct selection tool again, A, I'm just going to change this line as well so it's a bit wider, and click away. And then I'm just going to zoom out, Command or Control minus, and yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So now I'm no longer going to lose this little inside shape of my A. What I want to do is to select all of these individual shapes now, making up my name. So I'm going to have the selection tool. I'm going to click and drag to select all of them. It shouldn't select my background because I've locked the layer in the layers panel. And then going to go here, we can see that there's a combination of different shapes with different fills and different outlines. So what I want to do is, with the fill, I want to make sure there is no fill. And with the outline, I just want to make a black outline. So see, you might have to do it once or twice if it didn't click. And we've got no fill and a black outline. We just click outside that shape and we can see those outlines there. Great, okay. So what I might want to do is add some other shapes in here or draw an image. You can use any of the tools I've already used. We can go here into the Shapes tool, we can add a star, add one in. If we hold Shift, it makes it straight. While we're still clicking down with our mouse or our trackpad, if we select up, we can make more stars. If we go down, we can make less and less and make a triangle. If you want to make multiple copies of a shape, go back to your selection tool, so V. Just click on the shape, hold down Option. You can see two little arrows appear. Click and drag, and we can just keep clicking and making multiple copies. We can add these shapes together to make any of our own shapes if we like. Try that one. Remember to click and drag to select all of them. Go into the Pathfinder, we'll unite them, and we can make one of our own shapes to cut out. You can also do this with the pen tool. Remember, it's also P on your keyboard. Click and make a shape that we like. If we want to adjust any of these lines, then we can go Shift C, and we get a little cursor that we can click and then drag and curve these out. Once you've done that, you'll get these little handles that you can also change. Click and drag. If at any point you make a mistake, you don't like it, just click back on the center and it resets it. If you accidentally go the wrong way, like I have here, you can just go back the other way or click to recenter it. If you go to the direct selection tool again, we have control of these little anchors. I'm just going to select it. We get this little sort of bubble here that we can click and drag to smooth out our curve. Again, any shapes that we create, we can click and drag, select both of our shapes, and with the Pathfinder tool we can combine them again. So you can create some really interesting outlines if you have of a particular logo that you want to do, or maybe you want to draw, I'm not sure, an emoji or something like that, or something very particular. You can add there. Some other cool things you can do with the tools, specifically with the direct selection tool. If you have a shape, let's just say a star, I want to increase the number of points. So when I'm clicking and dragging out, I'm going to go up and down to decrease, up to increase, and I get some points going. I have several there. If I want to go to the direct selection tool, it'll select all of these areas, and we have these little curl marks here. We can see with all those layers selected, I can create this sort of very unique shape. If I want to be very specific about the areas that I'm selecting, just thicken the line up just so we can see a bit while I'm working with it. If I just want to curl the outside points, so if I select and then hold down Shift and click on all those points, then I can click here and reshape them like that. Click
way. Maybe I want to select the ones on the inside, so I can click and holding down Shift as I work my way around. So I'm selecting just these ones. And here on the inside of the point, I can click and drag to drag them out. So you can create some interesting curly shapes. We can also do this with the square or the triangle. So I just grab the rectangle tool. I can hold Shift if I want to make the shape square, or I can let it go out as a rectangle. If you want to use this for your keychain shape, remember just to change your width to 6 centimeters and your height to 3 centimeters. Change to the V tool for selection to click and drag and move it around. Again, we can see that all these corners are highlighted. So if I go to my direct selection tool, if I click on these, you can see how it brings the corners in. And I can make this sort of very unique shape that looks different from that ellipse shape. If I want to go backwards, I just click on it again and go back, go all the way. If maybe I only want one side, I can click on one, bring that curl in. Remember Command Z if you want to undo something. Click on these two corners, holding down Shift, and then I can do it to one side. And just if we're done, just want to go here, the settings, and we want to merge our visible layers. If we're all finished, before we save, we just want to go here and we want to either select which ones we want to merge or we want to flatten the artwork. This means it deletes all hidden layers and merges it all together onto one layer.
So another way I can add an individual shape, or later on if I want to have something that I've already created and I want to use it as a template, I'm just going to lock my name layer just so I don't accidentally mess anything up, because I'm happy with that, and make a new layer above it. And I can just click and drag and add an image onto this new layer. I've just added this really quick heart sketch just as an example to do it quickly. I'm going to lock that layer because I don't want to use it. I'm going to make a new one on top and I'm going to draw onto this new layer. So I can use the pen tool, just press P to click, and bring it back together. And I'm going to press Control C to select that anchor point and to pull out to play with that curve. Once you've pulled it out a bit, you can select one of the hinges here on each side, the handle, and change it individually if you need to. Go out like this, like I do need to here use it individually, so I'm going to click it out just a little bit and then grab this handle and pull out this part of the heart. Another way this can be done is using the direct selection tool. So pressing A, I can select this anchor point. We can see here that I can curve this one as well. Obviously I don't have as much control. Command Z to go backwards, and Shift and C to bring up little widget here. I'm going to adjust that shape. This one as well, I don't want to adjust the top, so I'm just going to do a little bit. So I have this lower handle and I can adjust that one. Here I think this side's a little bit higher, so if I use my direct selection tool, pressing A, I can click on it and bring it in. I can bring it up and move it around and have a bit more control over it. Can turn this little eye that is on my layer with this image off, so I don't need it anymore. Use the direct selection tool with V, select that heart, go here into the top corner and hold down shift so it maintains its ratio. There we go, click and drag, and I can add it here. Now is because we're going to work on all the layers and make sure they're all the right size, is to unlock the layers we've worked on. I'm going to click and drag to select all of them, and I want to go to the stroke tool, and here we have 1 point stroke. So what we want to do is make a really fine point for the laser so that it will cut through there. It's also how the laser reads if it is going to be cutting that area or engraving it or just doing a light scratch. So I'm going to click and select that area, and I want to make sure the weight of the stroke is 0.003. We press enter and it should change it for all of those lines. Click away, and there we go. We can see that's changed all of those lines. We want to make sure that when we are saving, go File, Save As. Just save it to your computer. Make sure you save it somewhere safe. Make sure that it has your full name. And, you know, I just put DT for Design Technology. Just say your class you're in and the year. Make sure once you save it to your computer, then you also submit it online and upload it. And I'm going to change the file and make sure that it is an Adobe Illustrator or an AI file. It should say .ai at the end there. We just say save. That all looks right. Just press OK, and that's it. I look forward to seeing your finished pieces,